Here we go again. What's
Oh,
up,
yeah.
dude?
Fire it off.
Yeah, welcome to another episode of Staying in Trouble with Eric Humes and Adam Short. Here again, man, and we in the studio. This is fun for me. We have Dave Wood in the studio. He is a business agent, not vet manager, business agent for Local 525 Plumbers and Pipefitters. I've known Dave for, can we say 20 years?
We can say 20 years.
Yeah, we got into the apprenticeship together back in 2000, 2001.
I was a helper in 2000, and we got into the school in 2001.
In 2001, yeah,
Yep.
right before 9/11. I remember that.
Yep.
We lost a couple classmates.
We
Now, I
did.
lost them like dead. I think they're still alive. They got out of the class and they went into service.
Yes.
So, yeah, but 20 years.
It's a long time.
It is a
It
long
goes by
time.
fast.
So,
For our listeners at home, if you guys could see Adam smile, he looks like
I like
just
having
opened-
friends in the studio.
Yeah, you look like you just opened up the candy store, and here you go, Adam. Here's a couple bucks because he is lit up right now.
Well, these are my people. They understand the struggle. Well,
The
anyways,
struggle.
Yeah, the struggle. The working man struggle.
Yeah, right here, right here.
Looking at it.
That's right. Look at these. These are chapped hands.
Yeah.
They got sunburned, so.
Eric's been building a cabin, up in Duck Creek?
And
He's been bugging me to go up there and hook him up with some plumbing.
Any reason to go to Duck Creek would be good.
Yeah,
That's what you
yeah.
thought. That's what you thought, right, Dave? Open
Right.
everything. So
I
I didn't want to bring this up, but since this is the Pipe Fitters episode, just so you know, do you know who helped dig my septic?
I don't know.
You don't?
No, I don't. Who?
Obviously, the golden child, the one person from your family that has come up to the cabin to help out, that would be your brother Joe.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Oh.
And did a marvelous job.
Oh, well, good
And
for
then
Joe.
when you offer it to his older, a little bit more, he's like, I'm more of a manager position. He's like, I don't really get my hands dirty anymore position. He's like, I can't be bothered.
They'll go up
Yeah.
and supervise.
Yeah. He's like,
I told him
FaceTime me if you need help.
I told him he can't afford me.
Good answer.
Anyways, so we're grateful to have Dave in the studio. Dave, give us a little background on, we already talked about the apprenticeship, but give us a little background of yourself.
Well, so I joined the Army in '96. I just decided out of the blue, I better join the Army, and it's better to do it and not like it than never do it and not know. So just on a
For
whim,
sure.
I went into the recruiter's office. I was a valet, as a matter of fact, on Fremont Street.
Oh, yeah?
Good job, no headaches, things was going well. So I decided I'm going to join the Army, go in the recruiter's office. I just want to jump out of planes and blow stuff up. You guys do that. Way too easy on my recruiter. So I joined the Army for 4 years. I get out, and everyone I know is a plumber or a pipe fitter, Local 525. Everyone I went to high school with, it seems. And the more I'm in town, I run into old friends, and, oh, yeah, I'm in 525. So,
Yeah.
oh, geez. So,
AKA the Henderson Local.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so my buddy was a GF. He said, hey, I'll call you out as a helper. This will probably be a pretty good gig until I find something better, and 20 years later, here I am, business agent.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah,
So,
worked out all right.
Dave, a little background. I've never been in a union. What's a business agent?
Business agent's your first, well, he's your union representative. I negotiate your labor contract, enforce it, file grievances as need be, speak to the employers on the members' behalf, as well as sit on various trust funds, protect the pension, the health and welfare, that sort of stuff.
Basically the leaders of the local, almost.
Right, yeah. The business manager would be number one, business agent would be the number two guy.
And in our local, correct me if I'm wrong, we have a business manager and 2 agents.
Yes, there's 2 of us, myself and Justin.
Oh, you didn't realize Adam had such a large company. I thought he was more like a one-man band. We talked about this union.
Well, see, and that's the kind of funny thing is you talk to some people that are members of their own unions and stuff. Some unions are massive. They go over multiple states, and like Local 12, the operators.
Right.
They're a massive union. The sprinkler fitter 669 is, I think, the whole western United States.
669 is the whole country.
The whole country. So So these unions are massive. Local 525, I felt, has always been kind of, we're big enough that we can have great collective bargaining, but also small enough that it almost feels like family. You know, and when I go to meetings, which I know you should lecture me, Dave. I need to go to more.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Hey,
But-
Dave, I can see that he's missed a couple of meetings because we're doing episodes. So, but you can just remote in. If you can remote in, that'd be great.
Right.
You know, I don't have any excuses. I think every member will probably sit back and say, I need to go to more of them. But at the same time, you know, that I always run into guys that are some of my dearest friends that I've come up with the apprenticeship with. And I love hearing about their stories, their families, and stuff like that.
It's nice because you get the regular crowds, you get going through the motions, you go to the meetings and all. Then every now and then there's the guy you haven't seen in 6 months or a year. Oh, hey, and
Yeah.
like I said, just back to that whole brotherhood thing is what it is. You know.
And that's something I've always felt in our local is much more of a tighter brotherhood. Not trying to take away from any of the others. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of the others have theirs, but I guess I'm a little bit biased towards ours. But.
a little bit.
So your background on becoming a business agent, or how did you become a business agent?
Well, so I was always been fairly active in the hall. Volunteered a lot as an apprentice. After we turned out, I was turned out for 2 years. Become an instructor for a little bit, which was a great job. Teaching the apprentices was probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Well, then we ended up with some business agents, a business agent that I just thought I could do a better job than. I didn't like where it was going.
Mhm.
And so what I started doing is I've always liked reading, so I started just geeking out on labor history, labor law, that sort of stuff. And this is when, after the 2008 crash, which hit Vegas in 2010, after that, I found this school called the Rocky Mountain Labor School. It's once a year, and it's always in a different location in the Rocky Mountain States. And fantastic. So I enrolled.
Mhm.
I went there, and it's neat because you meet, here in Vegas, you got construction workers,
Yeah.
you got Teamsters, and the asphalt guys. It's kind of how it seems.
Yeah.
There's construction, culinary, Teamsters, and those guys. Well, you go to Rocky Mountain Labor School, and you're meeting grain millers.
Wow.
That's still a thing.
Is it really?
Yeah. Guys that
You're
are
meeting unions you didn't even know existed.
yeah, they're making sugar and they're milling grain. And some of these guys, you're talking to them, and they're doing it. They're building a union from the ground up. There's a guy's like, yeah, well, we have our meetings at the local, coffee shop,
Mhm.
and as long as we buy a full pot of coffee, they let us use their little room at the table, and that's where we have our meetings. And then at work, if I got to give something to the president, I just put it into his locker.
That's crazy.
You're like, holy cow, yeah, these
Wow.
guys with nothing, and they're doing it. And then I met a group of guys. The entire union is just the guys that work at this one nuke back in wherever it's at, back east somewhere.
Mhm.
And that's the whole thing. And there's no one coming in until someone retires. Anyway, so I went to
That's a
that-
special
that-
union right there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so, and then I started taking some online classes through Cornell University and just educating myself. And I ran. The first time I ran, because our business agents are elected position.
Okay.
And so you got to throw, if you never ran for any office before.
Get out the
That's
buttons.
some work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out the buttons. Get out the
Oh, yeah, you're out
posters.
there glad handed and all that. And
Adam loves glad handing, by the way.
is he good at it?
Yeah, you should have had him as a campaign manager.
Well, anyway, so I ran the first time and lost, and then ran the second time and got in. Before that, I was on the finance committee, as a matter of fact, which was all right.
Mhm.
Then I ran, got in, then ran for re-election, got in, and we're up for re-election this year.
Awesome. That's something that always impressed me of Dave, is that he went out and got that added education. And that even some of the other guys have some great ideas, some good experience, but that added education was always a big deal. And that's something that they've always taught us in the local, especially in ours, is how important education is.
Yeah, just continue learning, never stop learning, and you can apply that to no matter what you do in life.
Absolutely. So since you've taught at the school and stuff, some questions that way. With a lot of kids graduating this year, kids that are looking for careers and stuff like that, not all kids are aiming towards the college path, but they still need to be educated to get that good paying job, that good stuff. What does our local offer for some of these young kids that are looking for a good solid career to get into?
Actually, before you get there, Dave, I want to know is, because that is a good question. That's a nice softball pitch. We just got done with some baseball. Is actually what the bigger question is how many kids aren't coming in, or like what is the stigma out there? Like, are we getting enough young backs to fill the positions?
Well, yeah. I mean, we on the one hand, no, you'll never get enough. We should have more people coming in, more people applying anyway. On the other hand, we get quite a few people applying, but some of them, they have no real chance. Like, and that sounds bad.
It does.
Well, last year, because you sit down with an interview, and,
Yeah.
and there was this one applicant, and well, why do you want to be a plumber or pipe fitter? Well, I don't even know what you guys do. I just know you pay well. All right, you need to work on your interview skills a little bit.
I think that's fair though, because and so I wonder where this gap is, because I was just telling the story of how I was going to interview to be a firefighter when I was a young buck, and I went in, I took the test, and I was supposed to go in for orals, and I'm like, I'm with some friends and with some family members that's all they wanted to do. They knew everything about firefighting. This is what their career path that they thought, they had not passed the test. Whereas I came out, I'm like, well, I'm really good at testing. I'm really physically fit, so I passed all those tests real easy. And they're like, hey, and I even knew some of the people that might be on the board, and they're like trying to give me some prep. And one of the questions was, well, why do you want to become a fireman? And I'm like, well, good pay, and you get like a month off. So I'm like, so I thought about that answer though, and I never took the oral board.
At the same time, you knew what a fireman does.
Yeah, I know what a fireman does.
Right? Like, he just wants money.
Well, as a young buck though, dude, that was what was in my head.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't even that kid. I'd actually probably further down the road. Like, yeah, he may not know what it is, but hopefully his English skills are enough to know that pipe fitter means plumber.
Yeah, take a stab at it,
Yeah,
right?
take a stab at it. And that's what I wonder too. Is are you seeing, like, as a union? I think it's been a little publicized that we don't see enough kids going towards the trade, right? We always think college option. It's not even that. I think some of the smartest people I know actually end up owning a plumbing business, an asphalt business. Like when I was going to school, one of my friends, his dad owned a plumber's business. And I'm like, man, what are you studying? And like, so he had a great path in college because he knew he was going right back into the trades and as a business sense. And so, and you even talked about, when you were getting into, hey, I think I want to be a business agent as a leader to help my friends and help my coworkers is, and you talked about it, hey, I went and got some more education. And that's where I think, a lot of times we think it's either white collar or blue collar, white collar or blue collar.
Right.
And I grew up in a blue collar family. Just so you know, like everyone in my family, most of my family, blue collar. And then I'm like, well, I'm pretty good at tests and I'm pretty funny in class. People like to laugh when I make jokes. And so I did decently well in college. And so, but I find that people think it's like one way or the other. I'm like, actually, I think most businesses that need to be successful, you need to be both.
Right.
And so it's interesting to hear that, so I worry, right? Adam's daughter just graduated, had a big celebration. Adam just, let her splurge, take a whole scooter down the strip or something like that. Like let her ride her bike twice down the strip or something. I mean, just really lived it up wild.
Yeah.
Is how many of the youth, like, so I was just talking to one of our previous guests. Is it his fault for not getting for people not knowing what his message is, or is it our fault? So what is the union doing to educate those future knuckle draggers, as Adam likes to say?
So we have a presence at as many job fairs as practical. And so Local 525, we do mechanical, plumbing, pipe fitting, HVAC service. Well, we're part of the building trades, and that involves all the construction union,
Yeah.
Electricians, sheet
Sheet
metal,
metal,
on down the line. And so, before it used to
Or do
be,
we use Sparkies? Do we use Sparkies around? I mean, we're kind of a little bit more upgraded.
I call them Sparkies.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think they mind.
Adam's calling him something else. He was whispering under his breath.
Nothing. Just keep going.
But it used to be. So it used to be. All of us were on our own just to hit, all these different schools or whatever, and then we
Yeah.
decided, what if we just had one guy or one group go and have literature for everybody? Because some people might want to do construction, but their idea of construction is they want to run a crane. Other people think, well, I got to be a carpenter, or I do electricians, or whatever. And so I think that's the best way to get the message out to the youth is at the job fairs.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think I don't know if it's still, and so I should have looked this up. But when the three of us, did you grow up here in Henderson?
I did.
Yeah. So when we were growing up, right, there was Votech and there was ATTC on my side of town, and I don't even know if those exist. It seems like they keep cutting programs so much. Like we just did at the Utah office. We were planing we were recapturing some of the siding, which is like inch thick by 12 inch. This lumber, we're repurposing this lumber. So we're running it through planers, we're running it through table saws. My wife is talking about her experience in wood shop. Her dad was a carpenter for the school district. Her dad worked in carpentry his whole life. And so I'm wondering, that poor kid who you had to interview, you're like, well, why do you want to be in the union? And he's like, I know it's a paycheck. I wonder if they're not seeing some of the magical, I wonder if, just some whiteboard. So Adam was kidding about my cabin opening up. And so Adam would not come up, even though I was I found a lot of solutions for him to come up, right? I took a friend up and we made this gorgeous Pinterestable, do you know what Pinterest is, Dave?
I do.
Yeah, it looks like right off of Pinterest, this PEX install. Just phenomenal on my rat. And I even had him, he was like, oh yeah, that's phenomenal. You don't even need me anymore. I'm like, yeah, but it would have been nice to not have to do things over a couple of times, but I have a nephew, he just had twins.
Right.
And we've been trying to heavily encourage him to join the Pipefitters. We're like, hey, you got two babies you got two mouths to feed. This would be a good time to find a good career. And I think it's that same myth out there that, oh, you know what, if I'm a pipe fitter, I don't know how to run a computer. Or if I'm a pipe, it's like a jock. Oh, if I'm a jock, I can't go to college. And it's not true.
Right. And one of the biggest disservices, I think, is they took the shop classes out of high schools.
I agree.
Because even if you're in there touching wood, you're familiar with it. When I was in high school, we had metal shop, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
We had both. We had wood and metal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, we had quite a few, and at least you're exposed to it to some degree. All the schools now seem to be some sort of special school of medicine or school of law, and society's kind of forced kids. You got to go to college, go to college, go to college. Mm-hmm. And now you see a lot of jobs. You need a college degree. We're going to pay you $15 an hour. That's also kind of a disservice there. So but we're getting out. We're out to the schools. As much as you can be anyway. We always got, quite a few people apply for our program, and I imagine every other trade is the same.
So how many apprentices are we letting in now?
Well, with this...
Well, the COVID thing kind of...
The COVID has thrown the whole thing out of whack, but it's always around 30, 40.
In the class?
Yeah.
How many was in our class? I can't remember. We had a pretty big class.
I think we started with 35 or 38, and then it was...
Oh, really? Because Adam talks about there was 8. And
No,
they
no,
had
man.
they had to
good
take
class.
him. They had to take him because it was so small. So that's what he was saying.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Honestly, Adam helps out a lot with I actually to give Adam some kudos and to give the difference between like when a lot of times on the show, Dave, we're able to bring in some professionals. We just had a major league professional major league player, and Adam just to give you some kudos to your friend is I called him with a plumbing question, and he was able to diagnose it over the phone so much better than a non-union plumber did. He didn't know that he was under the gun, but we had already sent not us, but someone had sent a non-union plumber out to the property, and Adam, over the phone, not only was he able to diagnose it, but he gave like the correct description, and it was like it really solidified. I'm like, man, you know what? Beyond what everyone else says about Adam, dude, this guy is a master. This guy is a whiz. And so, you know, I think we're asking about those apprentices. Is you know, Adam doesn't really toot his horn that much, and that's why I'm trying to take some time. And I bet you two, I bet I could have called you, Dave, and you probably would have given me the same answer. You know, you talk about these, you know, going to college or not getting exposed, I think is really what we're worried about.
Right.
Is, you know, if you haven't had exposure to, you know, how things get built and how they get put together, well, then you're missing a little piece of life. You're missing a lot of
Absolutely.
experiences. So,
Well, and I definitely credit our apprenticeship. Our apprenticeship, to me, was second to the best education. You know, and I tell my kids all the time, and I give encouragement to anyone out there is the line of education is you need to see the end result first. And then you figure out the path from where you're at to that end result and what education you need. If you wanted to join the plumbers and pipe fitters and that's the education, then there's an apprenticeship. There's a proper way to get to that point, you know, your final finish point. If it's fireman, it could be engineer, it could be doctor, and college is the right path for you. If that's the path, then you figure out what that path is and you do it. But you got to figure out the end result of what you want, you know, out of it, and being able to let the young people know that there's opportunities out there that you can have a very successful career. The other wonderful thing, like, you know, Dave and I are sitting here, you know, his education led him to a business agent position that he's doing work that is not really with the tools anymore.
Right. Now, you know, that's what's, I was thinking about that on the way over here. That's what's neat about getting in the trade. So you get in, and once you turn out and become a journeyman, excuse me, regardless of what your trade is, you always have that. So if you want to go off and do some weird stuff, and if it doesn't work out, you always come back to a good paying job with benefits.
Absolutely. Like
Which
podcasting, right?
Right, like podcasting. Exactly. But what's nice though is so you get in, you go through your apprenticeship, you become a journeyman plumber, pipe fitter, and you got a pocket full of welding certs. So you can open your own little welding shop if you wanted to, or any business if you wanted to, or you can.
well, you talk about HVAC too. We live in the desert.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's going to be 107 tomorrow. So the people who's been through HVAC school, they become way more beautiful when it gets over
You
100.
can make cold air and create ice. You got something, right?
Yeah.
You know, but you can become an instructor or teacher. Then all of a sudden you're working international, like our old coordinator ended up. Or you can become an international president. You can become a business owner, become the president or chairman of their business owner association, which there's contractor associations too. And so it starts off simply, you know, you're going to be a plumber, you're going to be a pipe fitter or whatever. And there's so many different opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't even think about, really.
I know. I love that message. And Adam, just I was kidding about his glad handing is he does a great job of promoting the union and promoting those opportunities. And we're trying to get that message out. We're trying to help you, Dave, because I do feel like there are a lot of opportunities missed, and that's why I was trying to get your litmus test is from your side of the desk. Are we getting enough kids, or even young adults to say, hey, you know what? I might want a real career, right? And we may, yeah, oh, you know what? This just broke. And they have to go to YouTube and they're like, ooh, that's looking a little outside my comfort zone.
Yeah, right.
I better call Adam. And Adam says, well, I'm at work. You better call a plumber. And then they get the invoice and they're like, oh, I wish I could have, woulda. So
right.
So we know how important education is, and these youth have that opportunity. What's the future of at least our construction trade in the valley? How are we looking with jobs coming up, things like that, especially towards the end of this COVID shutdown?
Well, at the end of the COVID shutdown, it's hard to tell because you get a lot of information. It comes quick and it changes quick. But like the Drew, the old Fountain Blue.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year, I was told, we got one of our contractors over there. We're going to build the offices, and they got all the money and all the plans. They're just dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and it's a go no matter what.
Right.
And that was the first one to shut down. And I thought, this is going to be the domino effect. In the Madison Square Garden Sphere, largest spherical building in the world, it shuts down. And then that was my concern, is it's going to go down the line, but they're stopped, just those two.
Okay.
Which was good.
Well, yeah, the what's the one that's in downtown?
The Circa.
Yeah, the Circa. That one seems lights are on every day.
Yeah, it's clicking right along. Same with the rest of them, which is good. Now after that, once these jobs are over, we don't know what's out there, because there's always a lot of stuff that's supposedly going to come our way.
Is it always new construction, or is it even stuff that we need to remodel? Or
Well, we got quite a few guys stay busy just going around to the different schools, remodeling, revamping, building new schools, whatever. So just the school of Shoal's pretty good. But there was supposed to be that water park at the south end of the strip, and it was the Australian fella was going to do it. And when Governor Sisolak was running, I was talking about that, and he said, yeah, that guy, he just needs to tone it down and he'll get it, because, he said, because of the airplane path, you only have a tower, 7 stories or whatever it is. And the guy came back, all right, here's my plan for a 40-story tower. I'm like, no, there's planes, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And then Governor Sisolak told me, yeah, that guy wanted you can rappel out of a helicopter while firing a gun and stuff like that. And like, listen, you gotta. Wow. So I was excited for that. Hey, whatever that guy ends up with, it's going to be pretty slick. But here we are these years later, no one's even talking about it anymore.
Yeah.
You think about, the Topop powerhouse out there towards Mesquite.
Yeah.
After the downturn, that was going to put us all back to work. And here we are.
And it never happened.
Yeah, a decade later, and no one's even talking about it again.
Now, driving out towards El Dorado Valley and stuff like that, I see a lot of solar panels, stuff still being built out there. Is most of that union work?
Well, I believe it's electricians. I mean, I know it's not us, and I don't know if it all goes union or non-union. If it's not my work.
Yeah.
But those photovoltaic, that's all electrician. They're going to build one up at Apex, the Gemini project, and it's 380 megawatts, maybe something like that. But I believe that's all photovoltaic, so that won't.
It
really nothing for us. So
interesting.
Oh, what about the one? Just guessing. I mean, the one that's out towards California, on the California border. That's one where they heats up like water and boils. Is that a pipe fitter project?
Yes, that is a pipe fitter wonderland. I worked out there at Ivanpah. Each tower had 1,000 pipe fitters on it. It was everywhere you looked. It was great.
Yeah. Pipe fitters on 8-inch sitters.
Right, exactly. Now we also might have that Air Liquide. That's that French liquid gas company. Air Liquide.
Yeah.
You've seen them around. They're supposed to be building a hydrogen plant in Apex as well to produce liquid hydrogen.
Yeah.
But again, then the coronavirus comes, and now
we don't know what's the future.
Yeah, I haven't heard it's not going, but no one's saying it's still going. So
wow. So what about some of the smaller work in town? How are we looking towards some of the smaller work, like even residential or HVAC service techs, things of that nature?
Well, residential new construction has slowed way down, but the reselling of houses, because of interest rates dropping down to zero, now you're buying a house at 3% or something.
Yeah.
I like this guest.
Yeah.
I like this guy.
So the resale market's gone wild and it's kept prices up.
Uh-huh.
Good for the realtors.
Yeah.
The hardworking realtors is how we like
Yeah.
to refer to those people, Dave.
God bless them.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm talking about, Dave. Fire it up. Someone that respects my profession.
I mean, but again, you're in limbo because if a bunch of jobs leave and don't come back, people probably won't be moving here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end, and that is true. Like that's a real estate question, and at the end of the day, everyone knows. Like, well, what are prices? Da 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 da. Right? If we were Silicon Valley, right, and everyone is making $200,000, home prices go up. If our jobs are only getting us $56,000 a year, well, not only because it's actually 57 as average. Is if our wages go down, home prices go down, and that's just the economics of it.
Right.
And I think too, like going back to that kid that said, "Hey, I heard you pay well," is now you're going to get that question a lot. I think you're going to get that answer a lot more. And so my question would be like, "Hey, how are things looking?" I would say, why would if I'm a young buck and I'm thinking, man, I don't want to be going from job to job, right? As a young buck, you start off and you do a lot of retail. You're working, sometimes you're working 6-7 days a week, and you maybe working part-time, and you're maybe doing school part-time, and you don't really know what's going on in life. Or you know what I mean? You're just feeling things out. Why do we want that? Why would that kid want to come in? Like you talked about your experience of going into the recruiter and making the recruiter's job easy. You're like, man, this recruiter owes me a lunch. On the flip side is as a union recruiter in a little ways, what can the union give us, like some rundown, like instead of talking about the instability, because when I think of, hey, if I'm in the union, I know I'm going to have a somewhat stable future, whereas if I'm just a pipe fitter or a sparky or low voltage guy and I'm non-union, I think the contracts are like, it's just contract to contract to contract. And maybe I need to live here, maybe I need to live there. If I'm union, can I stay here? Can I raise my family here?
Well, that's nice. So construction, union or non-union, is it's typically seasonal work, or in the past it was. And every day you're working yourself out of a job, right?
Yeah.
You get on this job, you're building it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the contractor has nothing else lined up for you, you built it, okay, that's it. And I think part of the reason why construction workers get paid so well is because I was told as an apprentice you should expect to work 9 months out of the year. Then of course we lived in Vegas where there was never anything until 2008, 2010 for us anyway. But what's nice about if you're working construction and you belong to a union, you have a collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah.
No matter where you go, you know exactly what you're going to make. You know exactly what conditions you're going to work under. You know what your start time is going to be. You know what your overtime is going to be. All that kind of stuff. So if you're just working wherever and there's no job after this, I got to go find another job. All I know is how to plumb. I'm going to talk to this plumbing shop. All right, well, we don't know you, so we're going to start you off at the bottom. You're there a couple of years, you get a few dollars, an hour raise maybe, and then you're out of work again. Whereas with the union, you know exactly what you're going to make. As an apprentice, this is what apprentices make. I'm a journeyman now. This is what journeyman makes. And I don't have to go out and look for that job. I go to the hall. It's a hiring hall, and off I go.
Isn't it better for employers a lot of times too? Because like in any business, it's about retention. You want to keep the good workers. And so, I see these big halls. I've never been in one, but I've seen some of the pictures where, Adam talks about education. You talk about training, like there's obviously residential is more my expertise in real estate. So when you think of pipe fitters or plumbing, I'm thinking Wurzbo, PEX. I'm thinking about class action lawsuits. I'm thinking about
right.
And so, in the union hall, I think as an employer though, I know what I'm getting. Like you talked about both you coming in this apprentice class, and I feel like I missed out. Like I didn't get the experience you two did. And Adam talks about, well, I learned this here, I learned this there. Is as an employer, what their skill level is. Is that another draw for employers?
I think that's a big plus for the employers, and also the ability to man up and man down easily. As an employer, I don't got to worry about, well, I better keep these guys and try to find something for them. Send them back to the hall. They don't even mind.
Yeah, and you're not going through an application process.
Right.
So when an employer wants 10 plumbers, 10 pipe fitters, and maybe 2 HVAC guys, he just calls up to, hey Dave, or our dispatcher at the time, hey, I need this many guys, I need this, and then in the matter of a couple of days, they're walking on the job with their toolboxes, and you already know that they're certified, you already know that they know what they're talking about, and you put them to work. And that's a service that I think we offer, or all locals offer, because of the education that we give.
And also, so I had every now and then it comes up. I need 2 guys for 2 days. It'll be 6 hours one day, 8 hours the next. You'll never find that in the outside world because no one's going to stop what they're doing to go work for 14 hours.
And,
right?
You don't know what they don't know, right?
Right.
Or what they do know, or what, I think a lot of times you talk about, well, you're working your way out of a job, how that happens. So here's the plans, this is what we need from you. And really the contractor, who is the employer, takes a lot of liability that if someone walks in and that they hired that person and they did a bad job and that place burns down, that comes back on the contractor.
It reminds me, a few years ago they were building a veterinary clinic by my house, and it stuck out because I noticed they'd been building it for like 3 years. It's 6,000 square foot building is all it is. It just took them forever. And there's a big sign of whoever the builder was, and on the fence it said now hiring. And it just struck me that's funny because I guarantee that company, that contractor, sells himself on quality, right? Best quality in town. I guarantee that's a deal.
Best quality, best price.
Right, but how would you know when you don't even know what your workforce is?
Exactly.
I'm trying to get guys off the street, but I got the quality.
Yeah, right.
You don't know what that guy knows.
Exactly.
Not everyone goes to the apprenticeship. We have plumbers, and some guys are great plumbers. They've been plumbing 20 years. They just never had a chance to get the union, or there's a bunch of misinformation out there, whatever. But there's also the classes for journeyman, upgrade classes. So just continually learning once again.
Absolutely, and I've definitely taken advantage of those classes, and I've sent a lot of the guys who work for me. They've taken advantage of those classes too. Some of the big classes, even in technology. The Revit class and the AutoCADs in design and all of that stuff is second to none. And that's the way the future of this trade is coming. It's not just, like I say, knuckle dragging, plumbing, like carrying pipe. It is that, but at the same time, a lot of our job sites are wired for Wi-Fi. It's computers, it's technology, it's the way engineers communicate with the workforce. It's all of those new age type stuff. My HVAC techs that work for me, those guys, they have laptops. Right. They plug them in. Our chillers are networked together. They can diagnose, they can download new programs. The technology base that's in the trades now is huge.
It is incredible, and every now and then I see something and it just sticks out as just an incredible thing. What were they called? They have these glasses. Like the project manager can go onto a site that's half built, put these glasses on, and he can see through them to see what's there. Then there's a hologram of what's going to be there. And so he can look up and see all my pipe run, and then see where the duct's going to go and see if it's going to work or not. And you're just like, that is incredible. And then virtual reality, it's incredible. It started off as a pretty neat deal for train signaling is what the deal was, how to work a crane. But it got to where right now, you could be here in Las Vegas and you could be talking to a guy in New York, and you guys, you're wearing glasses or a headset or something, and you're in a virtual room, and it's a mechanical room, and you can see him and he can see you, a silhouette of a person, not you.
Yeah. And
off each head is basically a red line, like a laser showing. So if you say, hey, come look at this pump, in the virtual world, I can tell exactly what you're looking at. And then as you go into it, you can walk through that stuff, and it's the installation, it's the pipe, it's the size of bolts, how many bolts for the flanges.
Mhm.
It is incredible. And so yeah, the days of a toolbox full of hammers are about gone. It's all technology. They're getting drones into the mix. It's amazing.
And see, that's what I'm saying. Like, and I don't think the message is getting out there. And I think, when I work with kids, I never hear, oh man, my dad works for the union. I can't wait to get in the union. And it's because they don't know about those opportunities, right? They think, hey, I've got to be in college to work. I want to fly drones. I want to do something with drones, right? I've got a couple of drones. Kids love them. I chase them around. Or like what you just said. I mean, that's like new age, like cutting edge. The kids are like, I got this supercomputer, and so maybe the only way to get there is college. And I think what it is the future. You have to pull in all the skills, right?
Yeah.
What was your favorite band besides Hemlock growing up?
Growing up, probably like U2 or like.
Dave, what was your favorite group?
Well, when I was in elementary school, I heard Def Leppard for the first time, and that set me on a whole path of just rock and roll.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how we used to grow up.
U2 was soft.
Yeah. and that's how we used to grow up, right? But nowadays, dude, like, they got rappers with country western, you've got rockers with rappers, like, it's
That's why
all
music today sucks.
it's got this, this mixing bowl. And so that's what I'm saying is like, I see the future, and that's what you're hearing at the hall too, is our future is actually both. You got to be white collar and blue collar. You got to know how to run a computer. You got to know how to understand technology, how to work with people. You got to, those are all, potential skills that you may learn at college, but you can also learn at the hall.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think that's where everyone, I don't want to be a plumber, right? I'm going to have to, clean out the sewer. Well, guess what? When someone's sewer doesn't run south, you become the most important person in that person's life.
Right.
So,
And it's important to encourage the younger generation, to look into these jobs. These jobs are not, even though that we were talking about a lot of computers and design and that kind of stuff, those computers, those goggles, those stuff, they're not going to put those flanges together.
Right.
They're not going to set those pumps. You're still going to need those skilled craftsmen to get in there, wire things up, plumb things up, and do those things. These are jobs that are not going to go towards automation. These are good paying jobs that need to be done. And these buildings all over this nation, they need to be maintained. These power plants, they work hard to generate electricity for the western states. Well, there's times when I was working in town, those shutdowns were very valuable.
Oh yeah.
You got to get in there, you got to shut them down, you got to do a lot of maintenance to them in a short amount of time so they can be fired right back up again. And it's those skilled trades, those welders, fitters, but also wiremen and all kinds of other craftsmen that are there to be able to knock a job out in a matter of weeks to get that power plant back up generating electricity.
Right. I saw a quote on the interweb somewhere. It struck with me, with this whole coronavirus and everything shut down. It said, pay attention to who's working now. That's who works.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I'm going to give another little kudo out to Dave is
I thought the kudos were coming my way.
Something that I've always liked that he did, and we talked about it earlier, is on our Facebook page. Our local has a private Facebook page for our local members, and something he always shares on there is history lessons from past union strikes, sometimes disagreements, all kinds of history lessons. And the thing that I find fascinating by reading these things, and I need a comment, I'm grateful that you do these things, is it reminds us of the struggle that's always been there. These fights that they have been fighting for years and years and years, we're still fighting today. The contractor, of course, wants to do these jobs and pay his labor as minimum as possible. They're always going to try to do that.
Right.
They want to cut. They want to cut conditions. They want to cut pay, and that's the hard work that you put in to try to prevent that and to keep our pay up, to keep our benefits up, so that we can support our families. One of I think the best sayings is an honest day pay for an honest. How does it go? Honest day work for an honest day pay.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
but in those history lessons that you share on Facebook, share the struggle that these men and women did time and time again, and how bad it was back in the 20s, and even earlier than that.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you could just, if you just Google labor massacre, labor battle, there's just far too many of those, and they're honestly battles. There's honestly massacres. You know, yeah, there's 1,000 of them. You know, the Battle of Blair Mountain was coal miners in West Virginia was the first time that they had dropped in the United States had dropped bombs from an airplane. They were dropping them on striking miners who were down. Who were down fighting much like World War I it was. I mean, it's insanity.
Yeah.
You know, so today, as a matter of fact, labor history was the Battle of the Overpass, is what it's known as. And so what it was, Henry Ford. Growing up, you're taught Henry Ford was this great guy, and he built, you know, cars and the assembly line.
Philanthropist, nice place in Florida.
You don't have to convince me. I hate my Ford.
Well, I tell you, Henry Ford was a complete trash, if you ask me. He had, so the Battle of the Overpass was, the other automakers had signed with the UAW, and Ford was the holdout. And so you have this pedestrian walkway that goes up and over the train tracks there.
Yeah.
And so you got UAW guys are out there, organizer, Walter Reuther, president there, and they're leafleting and just talking to people coming and going from work. Well, here come the company goons and just beat the hell out of them, throw them down the stairs. They start attacking the press that's there, and they snatched up all the cameras and the film and said, this is where they say it, oh, the union thugs came here and they attacked our guy. You know, just poor us. We're these poor auto guys, and these thugs beat the hell out of us. Well, one reporter got out with this film.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not at all what happened. Here's what it was. So what's interesting is Henry Ford it was known as the Ford Service Department. You ever heard of this?
No.
So Ford hires a guy by the name of Harry Bennett, who was a ex-boxer. He was a sailor and just a roughneck. And somehow Henry Ford met him. He seen him in a street fight or something. I don't know how that worked out. But he hires this guy, and he becomes Ford's right-hand man.
Yeah.
Until the very end. And he hires, he gave Harry Bennett the latitude to hire whoever needs. So he hires all these ex-convicts, all these gangsters of the day, all these roughnecks, and they're known as the Ford Service Department. There's thousands of these guys. It's huge. And their job is to go through the plants, and when someone's talking about unionizing or joining a union, or if they're just talking not working, they get wrapped in the jaw.
Really?
They get clubbed, the whole deal. And so at the time of the Battle of the Overpass, the fight was for $1 a day. Henry Ford had promised them $5 a week. I think he was around $4.50 or something. Like, well, we want $6 a week, whatever it is. So, you know, it comes down to about $1 a day what they're asking for, which is nothing if you think about it. And instead of paying them that to fight the union, Ford has thousands of thugs on the payroll to beat people.
Jeez.
And it's, you think, oh, that's so outrageous. It's got to be, that's not a one-off scenario, you know, because at some point in time they get so big, it's no longer money, it's about power.
Yeah.
I'm just going to control you people or whatever. But
And that's what I really appreciate about these lessons. We can learn a lot from our past, and we can learn that, and not just learn, but be grateful for the conditions that we have today. I mean, with OSHA regulations, with safety regulations and things like that, I know that I can go to work tomorrow and I can do my job, and I know I'm going to make it home.
right,
As long as I make my choices and make sure that I follow the rules and the safety regulations, I know I'm going to make it home. Back in those days, dude, the unsafe conditions, in the coal mines, in these industries, children working. I mean,
right.
the list goes on, and so it's just a constant reminder. When you post those posts, it's just that constant reminder of the life that I have, and I'm grateful for those kind of guys. Over Memorial Day weekend, a lot of people post, and rightfully so, the men and women who died for our freedom, and we remember those, those that have fallen. But in the labor world, we should remember the ones that have gotten their heads cracked in
Right.
by these bullies trying to fight for that dollar a day.
Right, just to even have legal standing, because until the Wagner Act, the National Labor Relations Act, NLRA, before then, unions weren't even a legal entity. They existed and they were somewhat tolerated, but not always. And so you think of like the Ludlow massacre, there's miners in Colorado. Well, they're striking miners. They get kicked out of the company town, so they got to go. They build a tent city close to the front of the mine, so they can try to stop the scabs. Tent city. So here comes the company goons again. They got the National Guard with them. Light the tent city on fire, and then as the because they had it wasn't just the miners; it was their families there. Tents are all on fire. Families fleeing. Start gunning them down.
Oh man!
You know,
wow.
and so when people tell you, oh yeah, you know, people fought and died and bled for this. No, they did. They did. And it took a whole lot of those until they finally said, Wagner, geez, we got to have something. And then what it was for reasons just to make commerce better in the country. You can't have such labor strife. And they realized that the workers have to have a way to air their grievances. And so then you legalized unions. And, you know, there you go.
Well, I appreciate everything you do. You know,
Thank you.
because I definitely benefit from it. And you know, I mean, I benefit from the hard work that you put in because I make a good income, and I got good health insurance, and I have a good retirement, and and I recognize where that definitely comes from, and it helps me be able to venture off on new things like trying to talk into this microphone clearly, podcasting. Yeah.
See that little gleam? He's like a little kid.
Dude,
He's like,
I'm
pipe
happy.
fitters. I can just
Happy.
talk about pipe fitters all day.
I'll be honest with you. Our first year in our apprenticeship, I would have never thought I would be doing this.
Right?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Definitely look back. But yeah, we appreciate you coming in, Dave.
Thanks for having me. I'd love to be here.
And I'll definitely put the link to our local website in the bio. So if
Perfect.
anyone's interested, and in that link, you'll be able to, or on the website, you'll be able to go down to our training center. And if you are interested, if you're a young guy or a young girl that wants to get into the trade and interested in joining the apprenticeship, you'll be able to go into there and then get any information. It's kind of unclear when they're going to have another class.
It won't be till November, and that's barring anything. It's
So
crazy.
Are they taking in applications now?
Not even meet people in person right now.
Oh, really?
But you can still go on the website, still get the number. You can still call and get information. You know, you're going to need your OSHA 10 anyway.
Okay.
And then it is something that they want to do.
Yeah, can you give us a little? So you said there's only like on a regular class, there's only 30. Adam was the last one to get in on your class.
Probably.
What
I wouldn't deny
what
that.
determines whether someone gets in or not?
Well, so you have to have an OSHA 10. That's just state law. You have to have that. But anybody that has gone above and beyond and shown that they want to do it. So if you had taken something as simple as a math class at CSN, or maybe you're taking welding classes at CSN, or you've taken some blueprint reading classes.
Okay.
If you come in and say, you know, here's my forklift cert I already got. I've already been doing this over here. Work, you know, it seems like you're interested in it, and it's something that you know you want to do, as opposed to, well, you know, I was, you know, not working with my hands, and maybe I'll go out in the elements and work with my hands now. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And it all depends on who
So
else is.
I can't apply, is what you're saying? Or I
Oh,
can
you
apply.
Yeah. You can apply.
Yeah.
Sell the whole board of house.
Yeah.
Do that for.
But I would say though, even if you don't become a plumber pipe fitter, if you want to do construction, there's all the different construction trades. Maybe you don't want to do construction, you should still be in a union. You should still have a voice in your wages,
Absolutely.
hours, and working conditions. And Vegas used to be Union City, USA. Any job you wanted was a unionized job. Now, you know, there's a lot of forces working against that, but there's still almost anything you want to do, there's about a union for it. And that's the direction you should go.
Absolutely. It's definitely a good protection. It's definitely a better way of life. I don't know why anyone else would do it. I think they believe in some of the other stigmas that go along with it, or the politics behind it, or something like. I don't know why someone. I've heard many people tell me that, oh well, I just don't like it. You don't like making good money and having good benefits. I'm confused, but whatever. But anyways, Dave, we appreciate you coming in, taking your time
Absolutely.
to come by the studio and talk to us, and we appreciate everyone listening in. Always check us out on iTunes and leave a comment. Tell a friend about the show, and
Yeah, and if you have a young man or young woman that's looking for a career, maybe they want to check out Pipefitters 525. Get a sticker from Adam.
yes, I got plenty of them. All right, thanks for listening in, guys.